Have you ever clocked in for a routine night shift at the hospital, only to realize the shadows in the empty corridors aren't from flickering fluorescent lights, but from the restless souls of patients who never made it to morning rounds? What if the beeps on the monitor aren't machines glitching but whispers from the other side pulling you into their unfinished agony? Imagine this. It's 2 a.m. on a Tuesday in late 2024. The air thick with that sterile chill that seeps into your bones, and you're the lone nurse on the pediatric wing of St. Mary's General Hospital in Chicago, a sprawling concrete beast built in 1952 on what locals still murmur was an old unmarked graveyard for the city's forgotten orphans. You've heard the stories from the day shifters, the ones who laughed them off over coffee in the break room, tales of cribs rocking on their own, and baby cries echoing from sealed-off delivery rooms that haven't seen a birth in decades. But you? You're a skeptic, a 28-year-old single mom named Elena who took this graveyard shift for the double pay to cover daycare. Armed with your stethoscope, a thermos of black coffee, and a playlist of true crime podcasts to drown out the silence. The hospital's quiet tonight too, quiet the kind that presses on your eardrums like water at the bottom of a pool. And as you chart vitals for your last patient, little Tommy, in room 312, a 5-year-old battling leukemia with eyes too big for his hollow cheeks, you notice the temperature drop not gradual like the AC kicking on, but sudden Arctic blast that fogs your breath in the air. You rub your arms, blaming the draft from the faulty window seals they've been promising to fix since summer. But deep down, something twists in your gut. A mother's intuition, maybe. Or just exhaustion from pulling 12-hour stretches 4 nights a week. Tommy's asleep, his tiny chest rising and falling under the thin blanket patterned with cartoon dinosaurs. And you linger a moment, adjusting his IV line, whispering a half-prayer you haven't said since childhood. Something about angels watching over the vulnerable before heading back to the nurse's station. Your sneakers squeaking faintly on the linoleum that's seen too many last steps. That's when it starts subtle at first, a soft hum like the hum of the vents but off-key melodic. Almost a lullaby you can't place, drifting from the direction of the old nursery wing sealed off after a fire in 1987 that claimed 3 infants and a nurse who tried to shield them with her body. You pause ear-cocked, telling yourself it's the wind rattling the ducts or maybe a radio left on in maintenance, but the hum grows weaving words now faint and fragmented. Mama Cold Hold Me repeated like a scratched vinyl record stuck in a loop of despair. Your heart picks up, thudding against your ribs like it's trying to escape, and you grab the desk phone, dialing security on instinct. But the line's dead, static, crackling like distant thunder, and when you hang up and try again, same thing. Just that endless hiss that sounds too much like labored breathing. "Shake it off, Elena," you mutter, grabbing your flashlight from the drawer, the heavy mag light that doubles as a club on rough nights when drunks wander in from the ER downstairs, and you step into the hall, beam slicing through the gloom like a knife through fog. The nursery's at the end, past 3 sets of double doors marked staff, only condemned since the fire. But you've heard the janitors whisper about shortcuts they take anyway, about cold spots that make their skin crawl and tools vanishing only to reappear in impossible places. The first door creaks open on its own as you approach, a low groan that echoes like a sigh, and you freeze, beam trembling slightly, illuminating dust motes dancing in the light like tiny lost souls. Push on, you tell yourself, because if it's a breaker tripped or a rat in the walls, better to know now than explain flickering lights to panicked parents at dawn. But as you cross the threshold into the no-man's land of the old wing, the air thickens, heavy with the scent of mildew and something sweeter, like talcum powder mixed with antiseptic, the ghost of baby formula long gone. The hum's louder here, bouncing off peeling wallpaper yellowed with age, and you follow it, beam picking out relics of the past. A rusted crib frame tipped on its side, a faded poster of smiling teddy bears peeling from the wall. And there in the corner where the fire started from a faulty space heater, a small shape huddled no bigger than a toddler rocking back and forth, translucent in the flashlight's glare, its tiny hands clutching a blanket that isn't there. You gasp the sound, swallowed by the room, and the figure stills, head turning slowly, impossibly slowly, revealing not a face, but a void, smooth and featureless like polished marble eyes absent, but somehow staring boring into you with a hunger that chills deeper than the cold. Run. Every fiber screams, but your feet root transfixed as it rises, floating an inch above the floor, arms extending in a plea that tugs at your maternal core. Come play it whispers directly into your mind, not voice but thought soft and insistent. Come hold me like Mama did before the flames. Memories flood unbidden. Not yours, but its flashes of smoke choking tiny lungs. A nurse's scream cut short by collapsing beams, the acrid bite of burning rubber and flesh. And you see her, the nurse, mid-30s with curly brown hair like yours. Her body curled protectively over 3 bassinets. Her last breath, a defiant lullaby against the roar. The child thing drifts closer, blanket materializing in its grasp. Sing to me. It coos, and against your will, your lips part, the lullaby spilling out. Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Mama's gonna buy you a mockingbird. Voice cracking as tears stream hot down your cheeks. It's feeding, you realize, in a haze of horror, drawing on your warmth, your life force, the essence of care you've poured into countless shifts, and as the song ends, it lunges, small hands icy clamps on your wrists, pulling you down into the cold that numbs your bones. Visions assaulting you now. Endless nights of fevered cries and unanswered bells, the hospital's dark ledger of lost innocence rising like a tide. You fight, maglite swinging wild, connecting with nothing but air, the beam shattering against the wall in a spray of sparks that illuminate more shapes. A chorus of child-sized apparitions emerging from the shadows, their voids turning toward you in unison. Join us, nurse. The chorus hums, forever on shift. Panic surges raw and animal, and you wrench free, scrambling backward knees slamming into the crib frame, pain jolting you to action as you bolt for the doors, their groans mocking your flight slamming shut behind you with force that rattles the frame. Back in the lit hall you collapse against the station desk, sobbing phone miraculously working now, as you babble to security about intruders. Ghosts be damned. But when they arrive, flashlights sweeping the nursery. It's empty, just dust and decay. No sign of disturbance, though your wrists bear faint bruises like tiny fingerprints that fade by morning. You call in sick the next 3 nights, replaying it in fevered dreams where the children sing back your lullaby in voices too old for their forms. And when you return, Tommy's gone, discharged against odds, his chart noting a miracle recovery. But you know better. Feel the lightness in the air like a debt paid, and from then on, you hum that tune softly on rounds, a ward or an offering, wondering if the next shift will be the one where they come for you fully, not as plea, but as claim. But wait, listener, before we dive deeper into Elena's unraveling nights, think about your own late hours. Those moments when the world sleeps and you're left guarding the veil. Have you ever felt that pull, that whisper urging you to look closer? If this tale's got your pulse racing like a code blue, hit that subscribe button now. It's free, and no excuse not to join the ranks of truth seekers peeling back the layers of the unseen, because ignoring these shadows just means they creep closer in the dark. Now, let's peel back more layers on Elena's ordeal. Days blur. After that first encounter, the hospital administration chalking your report up to stress recommending a week off, but docking your pay for no shows. Because in healthcare, ghosts don't get bereavement leave, and you're back sooner than safe shadows under your eyes, deeper than the wing's forgotten corners. The second incident hits on a Friday, 13 patients down from flu season overflow. The wing a skeleton crew of you. And Maria, the CNA who's been here 20 years and swears by St. Jude for protection, her rosary clicking like Morse code as she mops the East Hall. It's 1 a.m., rain lashing the windows like accusatory fingers, and you're restocking meds in the Pyxis when the elevator dings, doors parting on emptiness. But a chill rolls out, carrying the faint echo of that lullaby, now warped, discordant, like sung through water. Maria crosses herself, muttering in Spanish about duendes, mischievous spirits drawn to the vulnerable, and you laugh it off, nerves frayed, until the call light blinks in room 307, empty since a stillbirth last month. The mother discharged in hysterics, convinced her baby's cries followed her home. You hesitate, mag light in one hand, morphine syringe in the other, but protocol demands check. So you approach, door ajar, beam revealing a figure in the rocker. Not the child, but the nurse from your vision. Her uniform singed at the hems, face serene yet etched with sorrow, eyes milky cataracts that somehow pierce. She rocks slowly, a bundle in her arms that squirms and mules, and the scent hits, milk and smoke, cloying as she looks up, lips moving without sound at first. Then clear as day, "Help us, Elena. The dead don't rest when the living forget." "Your name," she said, "your name. How?" And panic claws your throat as the bundle stirs, tiny head turning, void face splitting into a grin too wide, teeth sharp as shards of bone. You backpedal, slamming the door light, staying on till dawn, Maria finding you curled fetal in the supply closet, babbling about fire and ash. And she nods. No surprise tells you of her own nights, shadows tugging sheets from fevered brows, whispers promising peace for a price. You bond over coffee at shift, change her stories, a litany of loss. The hospital's basement morgue, where drawers slide open on their own, releasing fog that shapes into loved ones' faces, pleading for release, and the roof where orderlies swear they see figures leaping only to vanish mid-air, their screams echoing into silence. But Maria's tale that chills deepest is the grey lady, the nurse's superior, who hung herself in the psych ward in 1968 after a string of botched mercy killings. Her noose marks still visible on the exposed beam during renovations, and now she patrols, judging the weary her touch a vice that squeezes breath from lungs. You dismiss it as folklore, but that night, as thunder rolls, you're alone again, Maria calling out sick with a fever that spikes to 104. And the lights flicker, plunging the wing into strobe-lit chaos, shadows leaping like demons in a silent film. The rocker in 307 creaks, audible over the storm, and you arm yourself with the crash cart's defibrillator paddles, charged and humming, a modern talisman against the ancient. Down the hall you creep, heart a war drum, and there she is, the grey lady, tall and gaunt, in starched whites yellowed with time, her neck elongated, bruised purple, eyes hollows that swallow light. She doesn't speak, just points to the nursery doors, now ajar, spilling golden haze like honeyed poison, and inside, the children wait, a dozen now, arranged in a circle on the floor, playing jacks with bones that clatter like dice in hell, their voids upturned, chanting your name, Elena, Elena, come see what we've made. The grey lady advances her hand, outstretched nails, long and yellowed, and you swing the paddles, electricity arcing blue, connecting with her form in a sizzle that smells of ozone and charred linen. Her body convulsing, mouth opening in a silent scream that manifests as wind howling through cracks, papers flying, monitors beeping frenzy. She dissipates in wisps of smoke, the children shrieking in unison, a cacophony that bursts your left eardrum, blood trickling warm, and you flee, barricading the station with gurneys, calling 911 for yourself this time, the operator's voice tinny, asking if it's a code, and you laugh hysterically. Code eternal, maybe. Ambulance comes, stitches your ear. Psych consult suggests Haldol and leave, but you refuse, clinging to your badge like a lifeline, because quitting means they win, the forgotten claiming another. Weeks pass in a haze of sedatives and short shifts, but the dreams persist, you in the fire, arms full of wriggling voids, their weight crushing your ribs and waking drenched, sheets twisted like restraints. The hospital hums on, admitting new innocents, and you watch them closer, wondering who they'll take next. Tommy's empty bed a warning, his miracle your curse. One final night, full moon, bleeding red through storm clouds. You confront the nursery armed with sage from Maria's abuela salt lines at the threshold. Bible open to Psalms, voice steady as you recite, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death." The door resists, then yields, and inside, not horror but peace. The children lined neat, faces filled now with soft features from old photos you found in the archives. The nurse beside them, hand on a shoulder, smiling faint. "Thank you for remembering," she says, and the cold lifts, air warming like spring, the hum fading to birdsong illusion. You collapse spent, and dawn breaks with the wing-alive day shifters puzzled by the salt and smoke. but you know the pact sealed your voice, their anchor. And now every shift you sing softly lullabies for the lost guardian in the night, forever changed, forever theirs. If this slice of Elena's nightmare has you double-checking locks on empty rooms, smash that subscribe free as a ghost's whisper, no excuse to stay in the dark when truth calls. Join us in illuminating the unseen, because one click could be your shield against the shadows creeping closer. And as we wrap this thread of terror, remember, hospitals heal but also hold, the veil thin where life flickers out. So next time you're on watch, listen close. What songs do the silences sing back to you? What if your midnight factory shift, surrounded by humming machines and endless assembly lines, suddenly turned from monotonous grind to a spectral siege where the ghosts of exploited workers rise from the floorboards to drag you into their century-old labor strike, gone eternally wrong? Picture it. 3 a.m. in the bowels of the old steel mill turned widget factory on the outskirts of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a hulking relic from the Industrial Revolution retrofitted in 2012 for cheap overseas parts. But the bones remember rusted beams, whispering of 1910 strikes where foremen cracked skulls and workers vanished into unmarked graves under the very foundation you're standing on. Your Marcus 34 ex-Marine turned line operator, broad-shouldered with calluses thick as leather from 12 years in the Corps and now 5 on this killing floor, pulling the double tonight because overtime's the only way to keep the lights on for your wife and 2 boys back in the trailer park off Route 30. The air's thick with oil and ozone, the press stamps thundering like artillery in your memory, and you're alone on the third shift skeleton crew, just you and the ghosts of quotas past, manning the hydraulic bender that folds sheet metal into engine brackets for cars you'll never afford. Headphones in, blasting Metallica to match the rhythm. You punch timecard at the clock that hasn't worked right since the union dissolved in 2008, its face frozen at midnight, mocking the endless night. The first anomaly hits subtle, a shadow flitting across the catwalk overhead. Too tall for the rat you tell yourself it is. Gone when you look up. Beam of your helmet light catching only cobwebs thick as veils. Chalk it up to fatigue, the 12-pack from last weekend still echoing in your skull. But then the stamps stutter, a hesitation in their beat like a skipped heartbeat, and the safety light blinks red. No alarm, just that insistent pulse that draws your eye to the control panel, fingers greasy on the keys as you reset, muttering curses under breath. That's when the whisper starts, low and gravelly, from the direction of the old smelter pit, sealed since the 70s but leaking steam like a dragon's breath. Scab, it hisses, single word laced with venom, and you spin, light sweeping empty space, heart kicking like a mule, because scab was the slur they hurled at strikebreakers back then. Men like your great-grandpa who crossed lines for a day's pay. His photo faded on the mantel, eyes haunted even in ink. Shake it off, Marcus. Ghosts don't unionize. You grunt, resuming the bend, metal screeching as it yields. But the whisper multiplies, echoing from vents, scab, 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 a chant building like distant thunder, and tools shift on your bench, wrench sliding inch by inch toward the edge, clattering to the floor with a clang that reverberates like a gunshot in the vaulted ceiling. You snatch it up, knuckles white, scanning the CCTV feeds on your wrist tablet, grainy black and white showing empty aisles where pallets should be stacked. But there, in the far corner by the loading dock, a flicker of figures, huddled and hooded, faces obscured by caps pulled low, gesturing angry, picket signs materializing in their grips, crude letters on cardboard, no more blood for beans. Adrenaline surges, marine training kicking in. You grab the pry bar from the wall, heavy iron cold as a bayonet, and advance, boots echoing too loud in the sudden silence as the stamps still completely, the factory holding its breath. The dock doors loom, chain locked but rattling now, as if fists pound from outside, and through the wire mesh window you see them clear. 24 men in overalls stained with sweat and rust, eyes hollow with hunger, mouths moving in unison. Join us, brother. The line breaks at dawn. Your great-grandpa's face among them, unmistakable, the cleft chin and squint from photos, but decayed, flesh hanging in strips, teeth bared in a snarl that sprays ectoplasm on the glass. You stagger back, pry bar raised, but the door buckles inward, chains snapping like bones, and they surge, a tide of the damned hands grasping with fingers, calloused eternal, pulling at your coveralls, their touch burning cold. Visions assaulting like PTSD flashbacks, but not yours, theirs. The foreman, with the pistol crack of shots in fog-shrouded dawn, bodies crumpling into snow, turned red wives wailing at tenement windows, children barefoot scavenging scrap for supper. You swing wild, bar connecting with a solid form that crumples with a groan, the apparition dissipating in a wisp of coal dust, but more press in, their chant shifting. Traitor blood calls to traitor, and you feel it, the pull in your veins, the scab legacy cursing your line, your own hands itching to cross invisible pickets. Run or fight, Marine mantra. You choose fight. Bar a blur as you clear a path to the breaker box, slamming the emergency shutoff, lights dying in a cascade, darkness absolute save for the glow of their eyes, pinpricks of rage illuminating snarls. In the black, senses sharpen, their breaths ragged like bellows, and you bolt blind for the exit ramp, collisions bruising ribs on crates and pallets, their laughter chasing a dirge of the dispossessed. The office door, reinforced steel, you barricade with the desk, phone line buzzing frantic to 911, dispatcher voice calm asking nature of emergency, and you babble about intruders, break in, send help now, while outside, fists thunder, wood splintering, and through the peephole, their leader steps forward, your ancestor, pistol in hand, the same Colt that ended him, leveled at the lock. Shots ring, deafening in the confines, bullets punching through like judgment, and you dive, glass shattering overhead as the window gives, shards raining like shrapnel from Fallujah. Crawl, survive. You do. Under the desk to the utility closet, wedging the bar in the jam as the door bursts, their forms silhouetted, advancing slow, deliberate. Your name on lips now, Marcus joined the eternal shift. No more scabs in the mill. Sweat stings, eyes breath ragged. You fumble for the fire axe on the wall, hefting its weight like an old friend. And as the first hand breaches, you swing low, severing ethereal wrist in a spray of luminous ichor that burns like acid on skin. They recoil, howling the line, breaking for the first time in a century, and you charge axe high, carving a gauntlet through the press, each strike banishing one, their forms unraveling into smoke that chokes lungs' final vision, your great-grandpa's eyes softening forgiveness or regret. Before he fades with a nod, the pistol dropping, clattering. Outside, dawn's gray light filters, the factory stirring with phantom gears, and sirens wail distant. Too late for the spectral riot, but in time for your statement. Cops finding only bent chains and bullet holes in doors, chalking it to vandals or your imagination. But the foreman next day finds the smelter pit unsealed, chains melted like wax, and your time card stamped at midnight eternal. You quit that week, cashing out vacation for a security gig at the mall, but the whispers follow faint in quiet moments, scab a reminder of blood debts unpaid, and now every paycheck you wonder if you're crossing lines anew, the workers' unrest eternal in your dreams where you lead the picket axe traded for sign chanting for justice unpaid. Listener, if Marcus's midnight mutiny has you eyeing your own workbench shadows, prove you're done with blind labor. Subscribe now, free as breaking chains. No excuse to stay shackled when revelation beckons. How many of us will rise against the unseen bosses haunting our hours? Deeper now, into the factory's festering lore. Months later, new job be damned. The dreams escalate. Not hauntings, but rehearsals. You on the line in 1910, hands blistering on levers, foreman cracking whip, and waking with blisters real, weeping serum that smells of hot metal. Your wife notices, the boys too, asking why daddy flinches at factory sounds on TV. And you spill, halting, the strike that never ended, the mill's grudge against descendants who forgot. She believes, her own grandpa a union man blacklisted, and together you research, library microfiche yellowed, articles of the bloody dawn, names matching your visions, including Elias, your great-grandpa, shot in the back as he turned to parley. The mill's current owners, Faceless Corps in Delaware, deny history, but locals gather at the VFW beers, flowing as tales tumble of night watchmen vanishing found days later, catatonic muttering scab of machinery running reverse, spitting out twisted relics like bent revolvers from the grave. One vet, old as sin, pulls you aside, eyes sharp, says the spirits don't want vengeance, but voice, build a memorial, speak their names, or they'll claim yours. You laugh nervous, but the blisters return, and at the next full moon, you drive back, trespassing under chain link, the factory dark but alive, hum of unrest vibrating ground. Inside, through a gash in the fence, the loading dock yawning, and there they wait. Not angry, but expectant, Elias at front, hand outstretched not in threat but invitation. You speak, voice cracking, names rolling off tongue from research, apologies for crossed lines, for forgotten graves, and as the last syllable falls, they nod, fading gentle into mist that smells of rain-cleansed earth, the chains reforming whole. Dawn breaks clean, no cops, and the dreams cease, blisters healing to scars like badges. Now you volunteer at labor museums, telling the tale to wide-eyed kids, warning of debts unpaid. And on quiet nights, you hear faint thanks on the wind. The shift ended at last. If this factory fable's forged fear in your forge, click subscribe. Gratis as grievance aired, no alibi for silence when stories scream for light. Join the chorus calling out the chains. Ever pulled an all-nighter at the front desk of a roadside motel only to discover the check-ins aren't all flesh and blood, but echoes of guests who checked out in body bags, their keys still turning locks from the grave to claim the vacancy in your soul? Envision this, 11 p.m. on a fog-shrouded highway in rural Oregon. The neon vacancy sign buzzing erratic like a dying insect at the Blue Heron Inn. A sagging two-story eyesore from the 50s clinging to life off Interstate 5. Rooms rented by the hour to truckers and transients, walls thin as regrets. And you're Riley, 26, fresh out of community college with a business degree gathering dust, slinging keys for minimum wage plus tips that smell of regret and cheap bourbon to pay for a dream of escape to Portland's craft brew scene. The night's slow, register light casting long shadows across the checkered linoleum, the clock ticking louder than the 18-wheeler rumbles outside, and you're scrolling Tinder on your phone, swiping left on profiles that promise more than this dead end when the bell jingles, door swinging on hinges that whine like banshees. No one enters, just a gust of damp air carrying the tang of river mud and decay, the kind that clings to clothes. And you call out, "Welcome to Blue Heron, how many nights?" But silence answers, thick and expectant. Shrug it off as wind the heron's namesake river swollen from autumn rains, but then the keys behind the board rattle number 7, detaching floating lazy across the counter to land with a clink before your hand, cold metal biting skin like accusation. You snatch it back, pulse quickening, because room 7's been empty since the remodel. Plumbing busted, door nailed shut with a sign reading, "Condemned," but the keys warm now, almost pulsing, and outside footsteps crunch gravel, heavy and deliberate, circling the lot like a shark scenting blood. Marine layer thickens, visibility dropping to arm's length, and you peer through the rain-streaked window, headlights cutting cones of mist where shapes loom, tall and indistinct, milling like guests at a reunion no one RSVP'd for. Lock the door, you think, bolt sliding home with a satisfying thunk, but the bell jingles again, insistent, and the phone rings, old rotary shrill in the quiet, receiver lifting on its own to emit static laced with voices. Fragmented pleas. Help, the water's rising. Left my baby in the tub. Checkout time was yesterday. You slam it down, heart hammering, grabbing the night audit ledger, pages flipping unbidden to 1982, the year the Heron flooded, river-bursting banks, sweeping away 6 in the night, bodies never recovered, rooms still bearing water stains like tears on ceilings. The footsteps pause at your window, breath fogging glass in rhythmic huffs, and a face presses close, not human, but elongated, eyes bulging fish dead, mouth gaping silent scream, water sheeting from pores. and you recognize her from the faded news clipping pinned behind the desk. The young mother who drowned in her sleep, her toddler with her, the Room 7 tragedy that shuttered the place for months. She mouths, "Key please," and the board erupts, every key airborne, a metallic storm clattering to the floor, numbers glowing faint like embers, summoning their dead. Panic surges. You bolt for the back office, tiny closet with a cot for crash-outs, barricading with the filing cabinet, its drawers spilling ledgers that slap wet, pages inked with accusations, unpaid bills from beyond. Room 9, the salesman who overdosed on pills and regret. Room 12, the lovers stabbed in a jealous rage, their blood still staining the shag under black light. The door rattles, wood groaning as if breathing, and voices chorus now, a dirge of the departed. Check in forever, vacancy in the deep, and you huddle, phone clutched, dialing 0 for the sheriff's line 10 miles out. But the cord stretches, receiver filling with brackish water that tastes of silt when you scream into it. Visions assault not dreams but downloads. The flood night waters rising slow, then savage, the mother pounding on her door as it buckles, toddler wailing in arms, salesman in 9 gagging on his own cowardice, lovers in 12, entwined in crimson sheets. All pounding in unison on your flimsy barrier now, their fists ethereal but insistent, wood splintering slow, fingers bony protruding through cracks like roots seeking light. You fight back, ledger as shield, hurling binders that pass through them like smoke, their forms solidifying in the damp, clothes sodden, skin pruned eternal, eyes pleading yet predatory. Join the register, Riley, eternal night audit. Memories flood yours now, not the dead's, but yours twisted childhood visits to Grandma's Inn upstate, the night she vanished, leaving only a note. Drowned in the lake, they said accident. But you saw the shadow in the boathouse tall and waiting, and now it's here claiming lineage the herons always call their own. The door gives, a torrent pouring in, not water but cold that numbs limbs, their hands on you, pulling toward the floor where a trapdoor yawns, stairs descending to flooded basement where the river laps hungry, bones gleaming in silt. You thrash, boot connecting with a jaw that shatters like porcelain, the mother recoiling with a wail that shatters bulbs overhead, sparks flying, igniting the air with ozone bite. And in the flash, you see the breaker box exposed, wrench from your tool drawer swinging desperate, lever flipping all too off. Darkness swallowing them in shrieks that echo like feedback. Fumble blind for the emergency exit-coded lock beeping frantic under fingers, out into the lot, where fog parts like curtains, sheriff's cruiser lights piercing deputies stepping out with drawl. Heard the call, ma'am. Everything all right? And you collapse babbling of keys and floods him, nodding slow, knows the stories. The inn's rep for the restless lost a cousin in 82 still hears the knock on quiet nights. Tow truck hauls you to the station. Statement taken over bad coffee. Psych eval suggested. But you refuse, packing your duffel from the trunk, quitting on the spot. The owner non-committal, says rooms fill anyway. The dead don't complain. Portland calls, barista gigs and open mics, but the keys jingle in your pocket still. Number 7 warm against thigh. And every fogged morning, you check the register dream ledger, half expecting your name inked eternal. Vacancy filled. Nights now you bartend, pouring for wanderers who stare too long, their eyes bulging faint, and you slip them extra olives, wards against the deep, whispering warnings of rivers that remember. Listener. If Riley's rainy night reckoning has you bolting doors twice, demonstrate your defiance of the departed's draft. Subscribe today, costless as a key left in the lock. Or admit you're fine with phantoms claiming the unchecked. How many night owls will we be keys in hand against the tide? Further into the motel's murky manifest. Relocated to the city, the jingles persist, waking you in sweat. The mother's face in mirrors fogged by shower steam, mouthing key please and you research. Library dives into microfiche, uncovering the inn's founding in 1890. Built on a native burial ground flooded by settlers' dams. The herons not birds but guardians displaced. Their curse on the greedy who turned sacred silt to profit. Letters from past clerks, yellowed and frantic, describe the same. Keys flying, Floods indoor, guests checking in alive but out as husks, their souls bartered for the vacancy. One epistle from 1950, the original owner, confesses to a pact, river spirit for prosperity. But the dead rose with the waters, claiming Clark's as collateral. His suicide in room 7, the first modern haunt. You write back to the fates, or therapy, confronting the shadow in journals, words flowing like exorcism, naming the drowned, etching their tales on pages that steam when read aloud. A return trip. Autumn leaves blood red. You face the inn, keys in pocket, entering not as Clark but kin. The lobby unchanged. Register open to your last entry, ink fresh. And the bell jingles, figures materializing gentle now, the mother handing back her key, toddler giggling at your feet, salesman tipping hat, lovers entwined chaste. Thank you for the light, they murmur, fading into sun shafts. The river outside calm, herons wheeling overhead. You seal the trap door with concrete from the shed, a proper rite with sage and salt and the owner dying of lung rot. Deeds you the place in will free for the memorial, you build rooms to shelter the homeless, no charge the curse lifted by charity's key. Now you manage by day, nights your own, the jingles songs of release, and travelers thank you, unaware their stay honors the lost, the blue heron soaring free at last. Have you ever settled into the security booth for a solitary night watch at the abandoned office park, convinced the creaks are settling beams, only to uncover that the flickering surveillance feeds aren't glitches, but gateways for the corporate undead former execs clawing back from boardroom purgatory to audit your very breath? Set the scene. Midnight in the glass tower husk of Apex Dynamics headquarters in downtown Atlanta, Georgia. A 20-story monolith shuttered in 2023 after a merger massacre that axed 900 jobs overnight, leaving cubicles as tombs and elevators as coffins. Now patrolled by you, Jamal, 41. Ex-cop bounced for punching a crooked brass, now moonlighting private security for pennies to fund alimony and a studio apartment that smells of regret and ramen. The park's a ghost town chain link rattling in wind off the Chattahoochee. Your booth, a prefab shack wired to cameras that haven't captured life since the pink slips flew, and you're nursing a thermos of spiked coffee flipping through cold case files on your tablet, the irony bitter as the bourbon burn when the first anomaly pings. Camera 5 on floor 12, glitching static, resolving to a figure in pinstripes, pacing the exec suite briefcase swinging like a pendulum. You zoom, dismissing vagrant at first, but the feed loops, the man repeating steps precise, checking watch, mouthing numbers, revenue projections maybe, and the timestamp reads 2019, pre-shutdown. But it's live now, your gut twisting as the figure pauses, turns to the lens, face sharpening to your old Sarge's, the one who framed you, eyes accusatory. Audit time, Jamal. You kill the feed heart slamming like raid door breach blaming hackers or squirrels in the cables, but the radio crackles, dispatch voice garbled all clear, tonight stay frosty, then silence dead air that smells of ozone and old cologne. Patrol time, you grab the baton and maglite, stepping into the lobby where marble echoes your boots like judgment. The directory board lit random, letters rearranging to fired, redundant, expendable, and the elevator dings, doors parting on void. But a whoosh of air pulls you in, buttons lighting floor by floor unbidden, ascending smooth to 12. The suite's a time capsule. Desks dusted whiteboards scrawled with merger math that bled the company dry. And there he is, the exec ghost, corporeal now suit, crisp tie noose tight, ledger open on the conference table, pages flipping to your name, debts tallied in red ink, alimony back rent the punch that cost your badge. He looks up, smile thin as a subpoena, overtime due. Jamal, the firm never sleeps. And behind him, the board assembles, shadows coalescing into suits and skirts. Faces from headlines, the CEO who jumped from the penthouse in 2021, neck snapped at 30 stories, now gesturing with broken fingers. Sign here for retention. You backpedal, baton raised, but the doors seal air, thickening with paper cuts and coffee breath, their voices overlapping quarterly review performance metrics. Your life dissected in buzzwords, the Sarge exec leaning close breath mints and malice. You cross the line. Now we cross back. Visions hit like tasers, not memories, but theirs. Boardroom betrayals, fingers on eject for profits. The janitor who hung from the AC duct after his layoff, his noose swinging in your peripheral now creaking rhythmic. Join the retention pool, eternal employment. You swing wild baton-cracking skull that caves like styrofoam, the exec dissolving in confetti, shreds of memos, but the board advances hands ledger, heavy slamming down seals that burn like brands, your skin blistering with contract clauses, invisible binding soul to spreadsheets. Fight mode cop instincts. You dive for the emergency stairs sign, pulsing exit red, but the steps shift descending to sublevels that weren't there. Boiler room turned server farm, humming with damn data. Cables writhing like veins, plugging into ports on their necks, downloading your sins. The punch replayed in high-def knuckles splitting on jaw badge, skittering across precinct floor. Up you climb lungs, burning their footsteps, pattering like typewriters. Quarterly reports, raining, stapling your clothes, pinning you slow and on floor 8. The janitor intercepts, rope lassoing ankles, pulling you into duct shadows, where he dangles eyes bulging mop water, dripping ectoplasmic clean your mess officer. The firm promotes the thorough. You hack free, rope fraying under baton, tumbling to the lobby where glass doors fog with breath prints, hands pressing out. The merger ghosts, their faces melting into spreadsheets, numbers for eyes. Come back to the fold, Jamal. No loose ends. Sirens wail distant, your radio sputtering to life. Help en route. Hold position. But position's hell now. The directory spelling your failures. Divorced, demoted, destitute. And the CEO materializes at the desk. Pen extended. Sign the NDA for the afterlife. Eternal non-disclosure. You refuse, smashing the tablet screen that reflects his grin, shards flying like accusations, and bolt for the perimeter fence, climbing chain link that bites palms bloody, their howls chasing, retention bonus denied, as you drop to freedom's side, deputy cruiser idling, lights blue-red salvation. Statement slurred, they search empty towers, finding only scattered papers with your name circled, red psych leave suggested. But you walk alimony check cashed at dawn pawn, trading baton for a PI license, private eye for the overlooked auditing, the corrupt, now not the dead, but files whisper still ledgers balancing in dreams where you sign cubicle your crypt. The park sells months later, raised for condos, but workers swear to shadows in the dust, exec suits in the beams, and you drive by. Radio tuned to static symphonies, wondering if the merger claimed the lot. Or if loose ends like you keep the audit open. Hitter. If Jamal's nocturnal Endia nightmares notched your nerve, if you're done with desk job demons, click subscribe gratis as a golden parachute. No pretext for perusing in peril when illumination invites how many watchmen will we wake batons raised to the bureaucratic beyond? Delve deeper into the tower's toxic tenure. Freelance now. Your caseload cold cases of corporate cover-ups whistleblowers vanished, and the dreams evolve. Not terrors, but tutorials, the execs consulting reluctant. Revealing the merger's rot embezzled funds, funneled to offshore ghosts. The CEO's jump not suicide, but push from phantom partners demanding dividends from the grave. You investigate pro bono, tailing the new owners, catching them in rituals at the site. Ouija boards on blueprints, summoning for stock tips from the beyond, their faces gaunt as the damned. Confrontation at dusk. You with recorder rolling. They laugh till the wind howls, doors slamming spectral, the board materializing in suits of dust, ledgers slapping faces, indicting the living for grave robbery of souls. Chaos erupts, deputies called by your tip, arrests for fraud and desecration, the site consecrated by a priest who mutters of exorcised En Rons, and in the fallout, your badge restored honorary. Alimony waived by a judge who heard the whispers too. Now you consult for firms, auditing ethics with a ghostwriter's ink, the execs at peace, their nods in rear views, the tower's space green now, park for the public, benches etched with names of the fallen workers, justice quarterly. Nights quiet, files closed, but the radio crackles faint, all clear, stay frosty, a reminder the audit never fully ends.